When I think about Zelda, my mind typically jumps to the 3D games, because that's what I grew up with. Now, the original games on the NES came out way before I did. And that doesn't mean that I don't absolutely love the 2D games, but like Nintendo, I tend to forget about them. Also, at the risk of copying this video, and this one, and these ones, I'm just gonna hold back a little bit on comparing the 2D Zeldas to the 3D Zeldas and kind of just talk about my thoughts on the 2D games after finally playing them. But after playing them, I can confidently say that I miss 2D Zelda. It has been 12 years since we've seen a fully new, original 2D game in the franchise. I'll get to it, just give me a second. And if we want to get real technical and exclude games that reuse worlds or assets, then the last 2D game was almost 20 years ago. That was unintentional. I'm just really sick right now. And if you're wondering, I'm counting any top-down Zelda as a 2D game, so just get over it. Now for the elephant in the room. Echoes of Wisdom is an incredible game. Like, pretty much everything about it is amazing. That being said, I think of this game kind of as its own, like, separate category. I love this game and what it does, but I think it's too different from pretty much all the other 2D games for me to treat it like one. I'm sure I'll hear all about that in the comments, but just bear with me. It's a new game. I'm still figuring out how I feel about it. I miss so many things about the classic games, but what is it that makes them so special and has me going back after all these years? There's something about the art and vibe of these games. The simplicity and limitation of them creates these amazing worlds with missing details that you get to fill in with your imagination. These games were made with so many hardware limitations that Nintendo was forced to add extra detail to things so your eyes could even understand what's going on. This is also the reason why Mario has his overalls and mustache, because without these, he would look kind of bad and unrecognizable. This is the same with Link. Even from the start, Link with his green tunic wasn't made because green was an iconic color or anything. It was entirely because the NES could only support sprites with 3 colors. But without these limitations, these iconic things would never have come to be. Even things that didn't stick but are still iconic, like Link's pink hair or Zelda 2's side view of Link. But the sprites aren't the only thing that make these games look amazing. It's also the worlds themselves. Every single one captures that feeling of adventure so perfectly. Even replaying them, I still have that urgency and that want to save Hyrule, especially A Link to the Past. I'm probably going to keep talking about this one a lot. Something about this game makes it feel so alive in a way few games can manage. From the moment you step into Hyrule and it's pouring rain and the music is a little creepy and the color palette is made very obvious, it feels damp. It's desaturated with low contrast, using cool muted greens and gray blues to emit a feeling of worry and panic. And the rain effect is just so incredible with the lightning like flashing. But then when you come out of the castle and you now know your quest and you've overcome your first obstacle, things feel a little less scary and more inviting. The world is bright and colorful, and you have a map that is asking to be explored. Using color palettes to show the emotions of the scene isn't strictly something that happens in A Link to the Past, but I think it's done so well here, and is the first instance of Nintendo using this in a Zelda game. Also, if you were born after the year of 2005, then this might absolutely blow your mind. We used to get these like manual books with every game. Nowadays you just get the box and then there's a little like spot for it, but they don't put it in there for some reason. Why is it even there? Why is it there? Why take the hooks away? I don't understand. But these books had so many details in them. On your way home from buying the game, you would take it out and read through the entire thing. It was like this unspoken rule. But the best part to me was definitely the concept art. This artwork showed what they would have made the game look like with no limitations at all, but of course still based on the artwork made with said limitations. 3D games had this too, like Ocarina of Time, even Breath of the Wild, but it doesn't hit the same. These ones are still so close to the final product. but these ones were mind-blowing back then. And while you played the game, you would imagine it like this. Some of my favorites that look absolutely nothing like the games they're portraying are, of course, the original game, like this one, but also the ones from Link Awakening really hit for some reason. Like this one, where he finds a seashell and is like, what the f is this? It looks nothing at all like the original, but it just feels so right. All of these details come together to make these games feel so alive. It's nothing technically impressive by today's standards, but it does something more special. It creates a world full of adventure, cozy villages, magical forests, and creepy dungeons. I've been struggling to talk about the atmosphere in these games without mentioning the music. The music in these games have had a huge impact on my life. The emotions that these songs bring out of me are unreal. The sense of fear, wonder, or satisfaction. Now, the 3D games music have probably had a bigger impact on me, seeing as those are the games that I have the earliest memories of. But without these early games, most of the iconic songs of the franchise wouldn't exist. The original Zelda introduces so many classics. The main theme is such an iconic song, working its way into pretty much every installment after. I will say, although it's iconic, while playing through it and hearing only this or this, I did start to go a little insane. Given the hardware though, this is still so impressive and left a huge impact on the series. Zelda 2 as well, with amazing songs such as the overworld theme, the town theme, but most of all, the song that brought us this amazing recreation in Super Smash Bros. Melee, the temple theme. But what really gets me about these early soundtracks is how confident they are. They're so bare bones, but they commit so hard to a specific feeling. The original dungeon theme isn't scary because it's using some fancy audio trick or effect. It's literally just a few notes repeating. These tracks had to do all of this with almost nothing, and that makes them hit so much harder. I keep saying hit so hard. It hits so hard. Why did I write that so many times? And of course, A Link to the Past comes in and just kicks down the door. The jump in sound quality is insane, but what matters more is how intentional everything becomes. Every area's theme is trying to tell you something. It makes you want to explore, but in a different way than before. This time in a more cautious and curious way, because everything in the Dark World feels wrong and different instead of new and whimsical. And the dungeon themes here, man, they're cold, lonely, and ancient. When I think of the atmosphere in 2D games, I think of these. They don't need to scare you, and they don't really. They did as a kid, but now I wasn't scared, but I swear, I wasn't scared. But they just need to make you feel like you're somewhere old and quiet and dangerous. Link's Awakening takes that idea and turns it into something more emotional. The whole soundtrack feels like it's floating. Simple melodies, warm tones, and then these tiny hints of sadness baked into everything. The Ballad of the Windfish is the obvious one. But honestly, even the village theme hits this weird nostalgic nerve. It's cheerful, but not in a loud, in-your-face way. It feels like childhood. Can you tell I love nostalgia? I'm sure everybody's gonna be so mean to me in the comments. Oh, it's just nostalgia. You just like nostalgia. Shut up. Shut up. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you for all the support on the last Zelda video. I appreciate it. Love you. Hit subscribe if you're not already. And then Tall Tall Heights is the opposite. That one ramps up the energy, but somehow still keeps that dreamy feeling the whole game has. What makes Link's Awakening special is how much the mood depends on the music. The Game Boy screen is tiny and the environments are tiny, but the soundtrack fills in all the emotional space visuals can't. It makes the island feel significantly bigger than it actually is. You take the music away and suddenly the game feels more flat. And I mean that in the best way possible. The soundtrack is the soul of this game. Then the Minish Cap shows up, and oh my god, this game just kills it. This game is so underrated. If you haven't played this one, play it. It's so good. It's so incredible. The music is so ridiculously expressive for how small this cartridge is. Minish Woods is one of those songs that perfectly captures the vibe of what kind of adventure you're on. It's curious and magical. Hyrule Town's theme does an amazing thing where it makes the world feel alive even when there aren't that many NPCs around. And the Deepwood Shrines music makes you feel the humidity in the audio. It sounds wet. It feels like you're tiny and wandering through something ancient. What I love about all of these soundtracks is how different they are emotionally, but how they all aim for the same thing. They're trying to make a small world feel enormous. None of them have huge orchestras or choirs to back them up, but they make up for it with the personality and with melodies that stick in your head forever. One of the biggest things I noticed when playing the 2D games, especially the Oracle games, is how foundational these puzzles are. These games are where lots of the classic Zelda puzzles DNA really started to lock in. And I don't just mean block pushing or lighting torches. I mean the way these games force you to think. The Oracle games do this thing where every puzzle feels like it's teaching you language. Not in like a hand-holding tutorial pop-up kind of way, but more like the game is introducing the idea, and then 3 hours later it expects you to remember that and then apply it. It feels fair, but it also feels smart, and that's exactly the kind of puzzle design that would become the entire identity of 3D Zelda games. Except those ones. We know how I feel about that. Oracle of Ages especially leans into this. The time travel mechanic turns every dungeon into kind of a two-layered maze. Not only do you have to think about how you'll get through the room, you also have to think about how do you get this room to exist in the right state so that going through it is even possible. It honestly uses the same part of your brain as something like the Water Temple or the Stone Tower Temple, where you need to change the area in order to progress. And Oracle of Ages did it with like 4 megabytes of storage. Oracle of Seasons approaches puzzles differently. It's less about time manipulation and more about environmental logic. On the surface, these feel simple, but that's the point. They're teaching the player that the world is a system. That's the kind of design you see all over Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, and especially Twilight Princess. I don't know why I said especially. It's just as much as the other ones. I just really like Twilight Princess. Modern Zelda often gets praised for its open-ended problem solving, but this older style is all about constraint. You can't brute force most of these puzzles. You can't accidentally solve them because you happen to pick up an item early. You solve them because you understand the logic of the game. That logic, that structure, is a massive part of what made Zelda feel like Zelda throughout the entire pre-Breath of the Wild era. I didn't really end this section very well, so it's ending now. We're going on to the next one. Going back through the 2D games, you really start to notice how each one treats combat like its own little experiment. It really feels like each game was made by a different team with different ideas at a different moment in Nintendo's life. That is the case with some of them, and I think most of the time this is a good thing and adds positive innovation. Zelda 2 is the obvious outlier. People love to meme this game and shit on this game, but once you actually settle into it, the combat has this clean, almost arcade rhythm. It's all reads and spacing. Iron Knuckles aren't hard because they do a lot of damage. They do, but that's not the reason. They're hard because they basically force you to learn neutral in a Zelda game. It feels in a way like learning combat in newer, difficult games. No other Zelda pushed difficulty the way this one did. And then, here we go again. A Link to the Past. It doesn't try to be challenging. It just sets expectation and lets you figure it out and learn from it. The sword feels good to swing. The enemies have actual patterns, and the game gives you just enough feedback to keep you locked in without overthinking anything. It feels like this one actually really does feel like that blueprint that the series kept referencing for decades. This is Zelda. I really wrote that a lot too, didn't I? Zelda 2's precision, Link's Awakening's smoothness, and A Link to the Past's balance set up this thing all these games lean on, the items. I cannot stress enough how important this was to Zelda, and how sad I am that it has been taken away from us. These older games don't treat items like features. The items make these games. Get the Rock's Feather? Cool, now you're basically playing a slightly different game. You get the Pegasus Boots, suddenly you're crossing screens in 2 seconds. Link's Awakening takes the idea and basically builds the whole game around it. The game is tiny, but the items stretch it in every direction. In these games, the world isn't built and then filled with items. The world is built around the items. A Link to the Past is the strongest example by far. Every item in that game has a footprint in the overworld. The hookshot isn't just used for dungeons, it changes how you cut through entire regions. The flippers open up so many different areas you didn't even consider earlier. And when you put all of these games next to each other, you can see the pattern. Items aren't upgrades, they're perspective shifts. The world expands not because the map gets bigger necessarily, but because your understanding of it does. Damn, write that down. That's the thing that the 2D games nailed, and it's why it feels so good to revisit. And the items are how the game teaches you to read them. The games are like a play, and the items are like the director teaching you how to act in the play. So after going back through all the 2D games, it's pretty clear why people still talk about them. Every part of them is built with intention. Combat, items, and the world's layout. None of it feels wasted, and even when each game does things differently, they're all chasing the same idea. Make a world that feels good to learn and understand. Thank you so much for watching, and if you liked the video, then hit subscribe and check out some of my other videos. I seriously appreciate all the support I've been getting lately. I cannot believe we just hit 1,000 subscribers. That's literally insane to me. I didn't think it was coming that soon, but thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.